They figured he was just another elderly black man at a gas station. Quiet, alone, easy to push around. But when one of them laid a hand on him, he uttered something so profoundly chilling the entire crew recoiled without a fight. The sun blazed high over rural Georgia, the kind of afternoon that made the asphalt shimmer like a boiling lake. Raymond Trigg steered his seasoned Ford pickup into a nearly empty gas station, just off Highway 92. It was nothing remarkable. 2 pumps, a dusty ice chest with a flickering cold drink sign, and a rusted bench out front. Precisely the kind of quiet spot Raymond appreciated. No frills, no need for haste. Raymond, 68, moved deliberately as he exited the truck. Not from weakness. He was still sturdy for his age, with broad shoulders and a steady stride. Rather, he'd learned there was no sense rushing when you didn't have to. He wore a weathered navy VET cap, faded jeans, and a plain gray t-shirt. His skin was dark and sun-worn, and his eyes, they held stories no one ever thought to ask for. He didn't often smile, but when he did, it carried weight. He reached for the pump, engrossed in his own business, when he heard it, deep engine roars and booming music. 5 motorcycles rumbled in as if they owned the space, the kind of chrome-laden machines that resonated like thunder. Raymond cast a glance over his shoulder, then looked away. He'd encountered their type before, loud, arrogant, the sort who craved attention. He remained unimpressed. The gang dismounted like actors stepping onto a set. They wore matching black vests, boots clunking against the pavement, a blend of young and middle-aged men, mostly white, with tattoos snaking up their necks and arms. One of them kicked a can across the lot like a bored teenager. Another spat close to the pump Raymond was using. No words yet, just palpable energy, the kind that made people lock their doors and avert their gaze. Inside the station, the cashier peeked through the blinds. Across the street, a woman struggling with groceries paused. No one wanted to get involved. Raymond stayed composed. He didn't flinch, didn't stop pumping gas. He simply watched the numbers tick upward. That's when the largest one approached, perhaps early 40s, with a thick beard, vest half unzipped, chewing on a toothpick as if it granted him authority. He got close, too close. "You too old to be driving, man," he sneered. "Ain't nobody tell you this is biker territory?" Raymond didn't look at him. Didn't see no sign. The guy let out a loud, ugly laugh. "You got jokes, huh? You think that hat makes you untouchable, old man?" Still, Raymond said nothing. He calmly closed the gas cap. That silence, it made the gang uneasy. They disliked being ignored. Another biker strolled over, smaller but verbose. "You deaf, or just slow? Maybe you need help walking back to your little truck." The big one stepped even closer, brushing against Raymond's shoulder, a deliberate body nudge meant to provoke a test. For one fleeting second, the air felt taut. Not loud, not wild, just tight. Raymond turned to face him, simply looking him in the eyes. No tremor, no anger, just a powerful presence. The biker faltered. He hadn't anticipated this. He wanted a reaction, a stammer, perhaps fear. He got something else entirely. Behind them, the rest of the crew chuckled, but quieter this time. One muttered, "He's gonna fold." But Raymond didn't fold. "I suggest you take 2 steps back," he said, quiet yet firm, "while you still got both feet to stand on." No shouting, no threats, just words. But the way he said it, it halted everything, as if the wind held its breath. The cashier ducked down. Someone in the car across the street rolled up their window. Raymond didn't move. The big biker stared back, confused. The gang had picked fights before, but this felt different. And that was just the beginning. For a long moment, the air between Raymond and the biker remained suspended, like a coin balanced on its edge, waiting to fall one way or the other. The man's eyes narrowed. He wasn't accustomed to being told to retreat, especially not by someone old enough to be his father. Among his crew, respect was seized, not freely given. And this quiet, gray-bearded man, he didn't appear much of a threat. Yet, something about him made the biker hesitate. The smaller one, the talkative one with the skull bandana pulled down to his chin, tried to reignite the bravado. "Come on, Big Rex, you're gonna let Grandpa talk to you like that? Hell, I think he needs a reminder." He stepped forward and slapped the brim of Raymond's navy cap. It was swift, disrespectful, deliberate. Raymond's head tilted slightly with the force, but his body remained still. He slowly reached up and adjusted his hat, smoothing the front as if it held more significance than anything else in that moment, because it did. The man had worn that cap for over 40 years, through funerals, through surgeries, through everything. It wasn't merely cloth, it was memory. Raymond looked up at the man who struck it and spoke calmly. "You got one more time to touch me, and then you'll find out what the world forgot I know how to do." The words didn't waver, they didn't rise. But something about them landed heavily. A couple of the bikers began laughing again, but it wasn't confident now. It was thin, even nervous. Big Rex didn't move. He just stood there, trying to process the way Raymond looked at them, not like a victim, not like someone attempting to bluff. More like someone performing calculations. Raymond had been in ambush zones where silence meant survival. He'd witnessed men crumble under pressure, their pride collapsing the moment things turned real. And he saw that now, the way these men postured, how their words grew louder while their eyes betrayed them. One of them pulled out a phone, pretending to film. "Yo, look at this old man out here trying to act tough. Internet's gonna love this." But no one laughed with him. The tension kept escalating, like a rubber band stretched too tight. And then it snapped. The talkative one, still red in the face, shoved Raymond hard in the chest. It wasn't just a bump this time, it was a full push, enough to make any man stumble, enough to draw that invisible line between disrespect and assault. Raymond's foot slid back half an inch. That was it. He didn't fall, didn't even look off balance. He simply squared his body again. "I buried men younger than you, with more honor in their bones," he said, eyes locked. The parking lot went still. Even the wind seemed to hush. Big Rex didn't move. He'd seen enough fights to recognize when something was amiss, and right now, this wasn't unfolding as it should. The old man wasn't afraid. He wasn't trying to escape. He was ready, too ready. "You think you're some kind of badass," the talkative one sneered, but his voice cracked just enough to be noticeable. Raymond tilted his head calmly. "You ever seen someone's hand stop shaking after their third firefight in a jungle you couldn't pronounce? You ever had to carry your own man's dog tags back home in a sock because that was all you could find of him?" Silence. "Didn't think so." No one said a word. Behind them, the gas station door opened just slightly, enough for the cashier to watch unseen. Raymond stepped forward, not quickly, not threateningly, just steadily. And the gang did something they weren't used to doing. They stepped back. All except Big Rex. He remained in place, eyes narrowed, trying to decipher Raymond, as if staring at a puzzle he didn't understand. Raymond stopped just short of him. "You got two choices," he said. "You can walk away with your dignity, or you can leave part of yourself on this concrete." Big Rex didn't blink, but his throat moved as he swallowed, and that told Raymond everything he needed to know. The real fight. It was already over. Big Rex didn't speak right away. His chest rose and fell slower now, as if he was trying to control the heat building inside him. His fists were still clenched, but his knuckles weren't as white. Raymond just stood there, hands by his side, calm as ever. No threats, no flinching, just a steady gaze, like he'd already been through worse and didn't expect this to be any different. "You think I'm scared of some old vet?" Rex finally muttered. Raymond didn't answer. He looked at Rex the way a man looks at a dog barking behind a fence, more annoyance than fear. Rex took a step forward, trying to regain ground, and said louder, "You think wearing that cap gives you a free pass to talk slick?" Still nothing from Raymond, just silence. And then, in a tone so even it made the words hit twice as hard, he said, "You ever stand still with a rifle in your hands while mortars drop 50 feet from where you're breathing? You ever smell burning metal and skin in the same wind? I don't talk slick, boy. I talk straight." Rex blinked. The others shifted uncomfortably. One of them looked away completely, as if he didn't want to be part of whatever was coming. Raymond leaned in just a little, not threatening, but close enough for only Rex to hear what he said next. "You got a fire in you, but it's wild. No control. All heat, no aim. You swing at a man like me, and I'll make sure you leave here wondering how you ever thought this was a good idea." Rex froze. It wasn't the words. It was the way they came out. No anger, no bragging, just quiet certainty, like Raymond wasn't imagining what he'd do. He already knew, like it had been done before. Maybe more than once. And that's where something changed. Raymond stepped back, giving Rex space. "I'm not your enemy," he said, "but I've buried mine. Don't confuse the two." Silence, heavy and uncomfortable. Raymond turned toward his truck slowly. Every move he made was deliberate. No rush, no fear, just like before. He opened the door and reached inside, not for a weapon, not for anything flashy, just for a cloth to wipe his hands. But the movement alone made one of the younger bikers twitch. "You're gonna let him punk us like that?" the talkative one said again, louder this time, his voice edging toward desperation. "We just gonna walk away?" Big Rex didn't answer him. His eyes were still locked on Raymond. Raymond turned back and gave a short nod toward the younger man. "You wanna prove something? Find a ring, step in it, swing at someone trained to fight. But out here," he motioned toward the concrete, "this ain't a ring. This is real. And real has consequences." The talkative one went quiet. Raymond stepped forward again, slow and measured. "You think I'm afraid of blood? My own. Someone else's." He pointed toward his chest. "There's a scar here, 4 inches. Got it pulling a friend out of a blown-up Humvee. You think you got the stomach for what you're trying to start?" No one answered. "You want to act like you're hard, fine. But when your mama gets a call saying her boy ended up laid out in a parking lot because he didn't know when to back off, who's gonna explain that to her?" The group stiffened. Big Rex finally spoke, his voice lower now. "You military?" Raymond nodded once. "Navy Special Tactics. 27 years. 2 tours in Nam, 1 in the Gulf. Ain't proud of all of it, but I'm still here. And I never had to talk tough to stay that way." Rex looked down, then back up. "We didn't know." "You weren't supposed to," Raymond said. "That's the problem with boys trying to act like men. You don't ask who's standing in front of you. You just push." Rex took 1 full step back. That's when the energy shifted. You could feel it, the weight lifting off the concrete, the quiet respect creeping into the moment. Raymond turned fully toward his truck. This time, he opened the door and said over his shoulder, "Now, if any of y'all still feel like testing your luck, I ain't going nowhere." Nobody moved. Not a single one. Big Rex stood still, like a man stuck between 2 worlds, the one he ruled with noise and bravado, and the one Raymond just reminded him existed, a world with rules, history, weight. No one spoke. The only sound was the faint buzz of the flickering open sign and the occasional thud of a gas pump resetting behind them. Raymond climbed into the truck slowly, not because he needed to, but because he was giving them one last chance to decide who they were going to be today. He didn't slam the door. He didn't peel off like some dramatic action hero. He just sat there for a second, engine idling, hand resting on the wheel, eyes straight ahead. The gang still hadn't moved, and that said everything. The talkative one, nervous now, kicked at a pebble near his boot. "Man, let's just go. Ain't worth it." Big Rex didn't answer. His arms were still crossed, but his shoulders weren't tight anymore. The puffed-up energy he walked in with was slipping away, replaced by something else, respect, maybe, or confusion. Maybe both. Raymond rolled down his window halfway, glanced over and said, not loudly, "I didn't ask you all to fear me. I just asked you to leave me be." Simple. No lecture, just truth, and that hit harder than any punch could have. One of the younger bikers, maybe 22 at most, leaned toward Rex. "Yo, I've seen that guy before. My cousin said he taught self-defense to the sheriff's department back in the day." "That him?" Rex turned slowly toward the kid, face unreadable. "You serious?" The kid nodded. "Said he once disarmed a guy with a knife in less than 3 seconds. Old dude didn't even break a sweat." Rex exhaled through his nose and rubbed his chin. "I knew there was something off. Felt it when he looked at me." Behind them, the gas station door finally creaked open. The cashier, a wiry man in his 40s with an unshaven face and a bad tan line on his shirt, stepped outside with caution. He didn't say anything at first, just lit a cigarette and stood on the porch. "Y'all best listen to Mr. Triggs. Man's not the type you press. He's seen things none of us want or imagine. The gang looked at the cashier, surprised. "You know him?" Rex asked. The cashier nodded, puffed once, and said, "He saved my cousin's life in '93. Car wreck, flames coming up the windshield. Raymond pulled him out with a busted leg and no gear, then disappeared before the ambulance even showed." Raymond didn't respond. He just let the story sit in the air like smoke. "Didn't even know it was him till years later," the cashier added. "Never asked for credit. Just walked away. That sealed it." No more noise from the crew. Even the tough ones didn't want to meet Raymond's eyes. Big Rex cleared his throat. "Guess we misjudged the whole situation." Raymond finally turned to look at him again. "A man can make mistakes. What matters is what he does after." For the first time, Rex didn't puff out his chest. He just gave a quiet nod. "We'll leave you to it." Raymond nodded back, and without another word, the bikers began climbing onto their motorcycles. The engines fired up again, loud as ever, but this time it wasn't about show. It was a retreat, a respectful one. As they began to roll out, the youngest one, the same kid who recognized Raymond, looked over, a mixture of curiosity and awe in his face. He called out, "Sir, if you don't mind, what did you do? Like, for real?" Raymond didn't smile, didn't boast. He just looked him in the eye and said, "I did what I had to, and I pray you never have to." The kid nodded slowly, then followed the rest. Within seconds, the gas station was quiet again, just the buzz of the sign, the ticking of the hot metal on Raymond's hood. The cashier chuckled once and said, "Same old Triggs. Still got that thing in your voice that shuts folks down cold." Raymond turned the engine off, stepped out of the truck, and said, "It ain't the voice. It's the life behind it." The air had settled. The bikers were gone. The dust from their tires drifted off into the Georgia heat like smoke after a brush fire. Raymond leaned back against the side of his truck, arms folded across his chest, taking in the stillness like an old friend. Inside, the cashier locked the register drawer and stepped back out, still holding his cigarette between two fingers. "Been a long time since someone made Rex back down," he said, "and you didn't even raise your voice." Raymond gave a slow shrug. "Never had to shout to be heard. Not when it matters." The man took a seat on the bench, waving away a fly. "You still living out past the ridge? Same house. Been there since '81. You keep to yourself, huh?" Raymond nodded. A man's peace don't come from the noise around him. Comes from what he's already survived. The cashier, named Mick, nodded quietly, as if he understood but didn't dare pretend he truly grasped it. "That thing you said about mortars, that real?" Raymond's face didn't change. "Everything I said today was real. I stopped pretending a long time ago." Mick took a long drag. "I remember when your boy shipped out. What was his name again? Terrence, right? He ever come back?" Raymond looked out across the road, watching a few kids riding bikes in the distance. "Nah, he didn't make it out of Kandahar. I got the flag, the tags, and a letter that didn't make it past 3 paragraphs." Mick lowered his gaze. "Sorry." Raymond didn't ask for sympathy. He never had. He knew what he signed up for. "I just wish I'd told him more about what not to carry. Pain doesn't get lighter with time. It just gets quieter." The breeze shifted. That slow, southern kind of quiet took over again, as if even the wind knew when to be still. Mick spoke again after a moment. "You used to be something, Ray. Talk around town was you trained with those black ops types. The kind that don't show up in records." Raymond smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Most of what I did doesn't exist on paper. That's how they wanted it." "You ever kill anybody?" Mick asked, then immediately winced. "I mean, I'm sorry, that's—" Raymond didn't look offended, just thoughtful. "War don't care about your questions. It don't give you time to hesitate. You do what you got to do to make it home. And when you do make it home, that's when the real fight starts." Mick blinked. "What do you mean?" Raymond looked him square in the eye. "Try living with what you had to become just to survive. Then go to church on Sunday and pretend you're the same man who left. That's the fight nobody trains you for." Mick went quiet. Raymond stepped away from the truck and walked toward the porch, his boots thudding softly against the pavement. He leaned on the railing, watching the traffic trickle by. "I've seen kids younger than those bikers cry for their mothers with shrapnel in their chests," he said. "I've seen men die with their eyes open and their mouths too full of dirt to scream. I didn't come back here to be some hero. I just came to live quiet." Mick flicked the ash off his cigarette. "You ever think about leaving this place? Starting fresh?" Raymond shook his head. "Wherever I go, I carry the same weight. Might as well carry it where I got roots." Behind them, the gas pump beeped. Someone else had pulled in, life going on. But Mick didn't move. "So why didn't you fight them back there?" "You had every reason." Raymond looked at him, that same calm fire in his eyes. "Because real strength isn't about proving you can break someone. It's about knowing you could, and choosing not to." Mick nodded slowly. "Damn." Raymond gave a half-smile. "Ain't about damn. It's about knowing when a man's lesson is better than his revenge." They stood like that for a while, saying nothing more, because some truths didn't need repeating. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot, painting everything in muted gold. Raymond leaned off the railing and walked back toward his truck. The moment had passed, but something lingered in the air, something unspoken but felt by everyone who had witnessed what happened. Across the lot, a black SUV pulled in slowly. The window rolled down halfway, and the driver, a tall, clean-shaven man in a beige sheriff's uniform, leaned out. He looked around, saw Mick on the porch, then spotted Raymond by the truck. "Raymond Triggs," he called out. Raymond didn't flinch. "Still am." The sheriff stepped out, adjusting his belt. "Got a call from someone who thought there was about to be a mess out here. Said some bikers were causing trouble." Mick raised a hand. "It's handled." The sheriff glanced at Raymond, then back at Mick. "Handled." Mick nodded. "Let's just say they met someone they couldn't intimidate." Raymond stayed quiet. The sheriff gave a small smile and walked over. "I figured it had to be you. I heard the dispatch say something about an old man in a veteran's cap staring down 5 bikers. Figured, yeah, that sounds like Ray." Raymond shrugged. "I didn't go looking for trouble." "Yeah, but trouble knows where to find you," the sheriff said, not unkindly. "You good." Raymond nodded. They walked away. "That's enough." The sheriff sighed and looked back at the highway. "Word'll get around. Those boys won't be back here, not if they've got a lick of sense." "They weren't bad kids," Raymond said. "Just haven't learned yet that loud doesn't mean strong." The sheriff looked at him, eyebrows raised. "You always did know how to hit a man with words harder than fists." Raymond didn't respond. He just opened his truck door again. Before climbing in, he turned to the sheriff. "Your daddy's still working at the academy?" The sheriff smiled. "Retired last year. Good man. Taught me how to clear a room without getting my own people clipped." The sheriff's face softened. "He used to tell that story. Called you the sharpest knife he ever trained. Said you didn't just follow orders, you read the room." Raymond gave a faint nod. "Still do." The sheriff stepped back toward his SUV. "Take care of yourself, Mr. Triggs." "You too." As the SUV pulled away, Raymond sat behind the wheel again, but just as he was about to turn the key, he noticed a figure in the rearview mirror. One of the bikers, the youngest one, the one who'd called out to him before, had come back. No bike this time, just walking, helmet in hand, looking uncertain. Raymond rolled down his window again as the kid approached. "Didn't figure you'd come back," he said, not surprised. The kid stood awkwardly by the truck, scuffing his boot on the pavement. I just wanted to say something." Raymond waited. "I don't know what I was thinking earlier," the kid said. "We thought it'd be funny to mess with someone. Just messing around, you know? But when you looked at us, man, I never felt that before. Like I wasn't ready." Raymond nodded slowly. "Because you weren't." The kid looked up. "Who taught you to stay that calm?" Raymond paused for a moment, then said, "Life. And the people I lost because I didn't stay calm when I should have." The kid swallowed hard. "I want to do better." I'm tired of pretending to be hard just to keep up with guys like Rex. Raymond studied him, saw the fear, the confusion, but also the opening, a crack where growth could happen. You got time, Raymond said, but it starts when you decide to stop looking for fights and start listening to the ones you already lost. The kid nodded, eyes glassy. Thank you, sir. Raymond gave him one last look. Next time someone steps to you with peace, don't meet it with noise. Meet it with respect. You'll live longer. The kid turned and walked away without another word. Raymond started the truck and pulled onto the road, driving slowly, no rush. Behind him, the gas station faded into the rear view. Ahead, just a long stretch of two-lane road and the kind of silence that felt earned. Not every battle has blood. Some are won with memory, others with the way a man carries the weight of who he used to be and chooses not to let it destroy who he still is. The road wound through Georgia's backcountry like an old ribbon left in the sun, faded, cracked, but still holding together. Raymond drove with one hand on the wheel and the window rolled down, the wind soft against his face. No radio, just the rhythm of the tires against the pavement and the thoughts that never quite went away. He wasn't thinking about the gang anymore, not directly. He knew they'd go home, some ashamed, some confused, maybe even angry, but that moment would follow them, the way certain conversations stick in your bones years later without you even realizing why. He wasn't proud of what happened. He never was. Raymond didn't like being the man who had to teach hard lessons, but sometimes the world didn't leave you much choice. He turned onto the gravel road leading up to his property. The trees rose tall and still around him, thick with memory, the same trees that shaded him when he buried his wife, the same ones that Terence had climbed when he was 8, shouting down from the branches that he'd be a soldier like his daddy. Raymond parked by the porch and cut the engine. For a moment he sat still, staring at the quiet house in front of him. Weathered wood, chipped paint, wind chimes made from old bullet casings, a place full of silence and ghosts that didn't rattle chains but sat in chairs, leaned on walls, lived in photographs. He got out and stretched. His back ached more these days, his knees creaked louder than the porch boards, but his mind was still sharp. Maybe even sharper now that he spoke less. As he stepped onto the porch, he looked out at the road again, thinking about that kid, the one who came back, the one who asked real questions. That's who he did it for. Not the loud ones, not the ones with fists and empty talk. The quiet ones standing just behind them, the ones who still had a chance to change. He sat down on a wooden chair near the front window, next to an old metal table with a pair of glasses and a folded newspaper. He pulled out a small notebook from his jacket pocket. He didn't write often, but sometimes words needed to be put somewhere. He opened to a blank page and scribbled a few lines. Strength is knowing when not to strike. Wisdom is walking away with your soul intact. Real men leave scars they never show, and peace they never brag about. He put the notebook down and leaned back. The thing about life is, it doesn't give you medals for restraint. No one hands you a trophy for swallowing your pride. But Raymond had learned something most folks never do. Being feared might keep people away, but being respected, that stays long after you're gone. He'd seen too many men die trying to prove something to people who didn't matter. Too many kids trying to fill the space where a father should have stood. He never wanted to be a legend. He just wanted to be a reason someone else lived to see another day. As the sun dipped below the tree line, casting orange across the porch, he thought about the way the world was changing. Loud voices everywhere. Young men mistaking anger for power. But now and then, someone listened. Someone stepped back. That was enough. He reached down, picked up his coffee mug, cold now, and took a sip anyway. Bitterness didn't bother him. He glanced at the flag folded in its frame inside the house. Terence, a good man, better than he ever let on, Raymond whispered to no one in particular. You keep watching, boy. Your old man's still out here. Still teaching. And with that, he closed his eyes for a moment, not to sleep, just to breathe. Because in a world full of noise, sometimes the loudest thing you can do is stay calm.